Hey, so this week we have been talking about coaching the families that you serve for visitation time and funeral time, and how those guests will approach them and maybe what they're going to say. And I think this is such a critical part of our job, because when we prepare them for some of the things they may hear that they may take the wrong way, then you are just planting this seed within them for a much better visitation and funeral experience. I think on the flip side, it's also good for me to put out a little education for people who are going to funerals and visitations on what you could maybe say or do that can make it a better experience for the people you're going to visit. I know that I still get a little nervous going to a visitation of someone I love, because what do you say? I'm so sorry. Sounds trite, even though you are sorry. You're sorry that they're in pain. You're sorry that they're hurting. But I'm sorry also, it has a connotation to it that you have done something wrong, and so it isn't quite the right words. But let me give you a few tools to help you as you go. So we're going to start with that part. So as a visitor, something you can do is, cause a conversation to begin with the person that you're there, or with extended family, especially if you don't know the extended family or other people that you're encountering there. You can ask questions, look at a picture and say, wow, I didn't know that she tap danced when she was younger, or oh my gosh, is this their farm? What do you know about it? Or what do you know when they met, or was he in the service and what he did in the service? Ask a question about their life. Don't talk about the death. This person may have had, children are definitely a different situation. So I'm talking about, more, the older people that are dying, and, people that are not, babies and children, definitely a different story. But so the people that you can reflect back on some of their life and on their accomplishments and on things they've done or how they met their spouse, so things like that. Start talking about the story of their life rather than asking about their death. Not what the person wants to be talking about that you're visiting. They want to tell you something about their loved one. They want to reflect back on that amazing life that they shared with that person. So do that. I am so sorry. It's really obvious that she was so loved. Another good one. Wow, what an amazing quilter she was. Reflect on something else in the room, maybe not just a picture, the quilting, or a sport, or wow, they really loved football, or oh, I didn't know they were a Steelers fan. Know that you and your family are in our thoughts and prayers. It's very cliche, but it's a nice sentiment. Go to that if you don't have anything else to go to. Say those words. I remember this one time when your mom was downtown and we ran into each other, and it was just so nice seeing her. It can be the most basic story that you're sharing, but it can be a huge thing to them to know that you remember that person in your life in one moment, and it makes a big deal. Things not to say. Avoid these phrases. Gosh, she's in a better place. Heaven sure needed another angel. No, do not say those. You'll feel better soon. No. This will be such a relief because you've been caring for him for so long. So this must be some relief for you. How is losing a loved one ever a relief? It's part of love. The more you love, the more you're going to lose at some point, but it's the price to pay for getting to love somebody. So don't say that one either. It's a relief thing. At the visitation or funeral, don't say, oh, are you gonna sell the house? Are you gonna get remarried? At least you're young enough to get remarried. At least you're young enough to have more kids. Bad. Or you'll get over it soon. Same thing. Now, one that I'm going to point out, do not do this. And I know that it's easy to do this, especially if you've maybe lost your spouse, or you've lost a child within your life, or you've had a death within your life at all. You say, gosh, I know how you're feeling. You will never know how anyone else is feeling in their loss, ever. So do not compare. Do not try to put yourself on the same playing field as that person, because you're not. They are in it. They are raw. They are hurting. They just lost their spouse. Even if you've lost your spouse before, it's never the exact same situation. You never know how they feel. You never are walking those steps. You know, a month down the road, if you're talking to the person and you're like, you know, when I lost my spouse, you know, I went through these, are you finding any of that's the same? That's a different situation. You know, then you're coming to them as a friend and, you know, trying to help them with your experience. But when you're standing in that moment when their spouse just died or their child just died or anybody just died in there's no comparison, and you really do hurt them by saying that a lot of the times. So avoid those. So when you are a director meeting with a family, it is a really awesome thing to coach them through what they're going to encounter and say, you know, this visitation time is so that people can come and love on you and tell you they're sorry and just give you some support. And you're maybe going to be told or said things to you that actually kind of hurt you because that's just your reaction. But I want you to remember that people are coming here just to show you they love you, and they're saying things that they think are helpful, but they may not be. So when people say these things, my light just died. When people say these things, it's kind of code language for I love you and I don't know what else to say. So remember that, and remember that that's why they're there. So those are really important things to tell somebody. And I've had so many families thank me afterwards and say, gosh, I'm so glad you said that to me because someone said this. And at first I was offended and I was hurt, but then I remembered what you said, and so it was better. So making, you know, it's good to encourage within them to know what they may hear. And a lot of people know those trite phrases like, you know, oh, haven't needed an angel and stuff, and that people are going to say them, and just to know in the back of their mind going into it. So as you are trying to help somebody that you're going to visit, back to the beginning, things to keep in mind too are when you say, oh, let's do something, you know, make an actual plan. And if you're in that and you're a family member and someone says, hey, let's do something to you, you know, remember that. Call that person. Don't feel afraid to call that person. And if you are that person, put on your planner 1 month from the funeral to call the person who had the loss. Follow through. And don't feel bad leaning on those people who have told you to call them. You have to, you know, these words are not just words. Sometimes they are, but, you know, call them out on it and use their support and use their company. So I think another couple things that I wanted to point out to remember is everybody reacts to death and funeral homes so differently. And sometimes people's nervous reactions are laughter, or like weird itching, or, you know, touching, or playing with their hair, or not being able to look you in the eye. So when people are visiting you at a funeral home, if you have lost somebody, remember that some of these actions that somebody may be doing, they just may be uncomfortable being in a funeral home. You know, it's not a place anybody really wants to go, and it's not something that's comfortable for many people. And so somebody may be laughing or may get a rash, or may get a stutter, or may start crying hysterically even though they didn't even know the deceased. So there's a lot of reactions that may happen, and so don't take offense. Don't, you know, jump to conclusions. Just remember that people are there because they love you if you're the one who's lost somebody. And remember that you need to just go into it. If you're going to a visitation, you need to go into it just with your heart open to show people that you love them. And as long as you do that, it's good and it'll be okay. And, you know, everybody will understand what you're doing by these actions. So hopefully this was a little helpful. Hopefully it's encouraging. But visitation and service times are a great time of support for those who have lost. So go into it with those ideas. Thanks, guys.